you up. So I'd like to bring up Denise from PayPal, please. Please give her a hand. I'd like to bring up Amanda from Blizzard. Thank you. I've lost, oh, there we go. Microphone almost gone. Thank you. And then finally, Maria from Motorola. Thank you. Okay, let's get started. I'm getting out of here.
Thank you, Doug, and welcome everybody. I hope you're having as good time as I am over here at Couchbase. So we're going to talk about women in tech, which is also as important technology, or which Brian was talking about, which is going to take the tech to the next level. Women's are also something that we all have to put a good effort into it and make sure on how to take the industry to a next level. This is one of the topics that is talked a lot these days, and I'm really glad that Couchbase actually gave us a platform to put a little bit more awareness around it. The basic and the main goal around this panel is that the new technologies is creating a big skill gap in the industry, and can we tap into that an opportunity and see if we can get the more women into the industry. So we are here joined by a wonderful panel of ladies in tech who are very close to coding and code, and they have their own experiences in different parts of it. And so I'd like to introduce Amanda from Blizzard Entertainment. She is one of the ladies in gaming, which is not really the field that we see a lot of girls in there. We have Maria from Motorola. She has been into management for 10 plus years and leading mobile technologies there. We have Denise, who is from PayPal, and she has into a number of different leadership positions at Symantec and Sun and Intel, and she is a big advocate of open source. Now, I know I haven't done justice to any of these introductions because they are really great, and I think the best thing would be for you guys to say a little bit about yourself. And I think I like to see something more, if you can add, that we cannot find in the LinkedIn, and something more personal that you would like to everybody to know about you. So Maria, can you start with you?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Maria. I've been working in Motorola Mobility for a while, and my passion is about new technologies, mobile, and cloud. So Divya asked about to talk something which is not typical, and like people don't know from my LinkedIn profile. Okay, so when I was a kid, I dreamed to be a ballerina, and I spent 8 years doing Russian ballet. So it was like every day, hard work, few hours of work, and weekends, all busy. And then I decided to be an engineer. Why? You know, people often ask me why. And my answer is very simple. My grandfather was engineer, my grandmother was engineer, my mom was engineer, my dad was engineer. So I decided to be an engineer. So, and I think that is kind of important. Like for me, it came as a heritage, but for a lot of girls, it's not coming as a heritage. They need to make this first step. They need to make this first step to come up to the workforce to do amazing work as an engineer. So, and I think it's very important for us to encourage and support this move.
Amanda, would you?
Hello, my name is Amanda Gertis. I'm a senior data engineer at Blizzard Entertainment. I get to work with video game data, which is the best job ever. One fun thing about me that isn't in my LinkedIn profile, I compete in strongman, so like Atlas stones, truck pulls, car deadlifts.
Wow.
It's almost as awesome as video game data. But that's fun. I'm really glad to be here. I got to speak with these ladies on the phone. I think this is a really important kind of discussion we need to have. Coming from the video game industry, you know, back when I started playing video games, not too many girls playing, so many more now. There are so many opportunities. It is a great time to be doing this, so really excited.
Denise.
Hi, I'm Denise. I've worked a lot of places. When I was the CTO of Wikipedia, I was the only woman in the top 10 websites in the world that was a CTO. So I know what it feels like to be in a rare place. And I do a lot of these panels, as you might imagine, and they are important, although I know how you feel about them sitting out there in the audience. You're like, oh, God, no, not the girl panel. But hopefully this is going to be a conversation about things that you can actually do if you agree with us. My company has the interesting position of, women like to shop, and we like to have them shop online. And in order to make products that they're actually going to want to use online, we need women involved in the design and creation of those products, because otherwise it's just not going to be as appealing. And so we work pretty hard over at PayPal and eBay as well to try to be inclusive. And we've done some very interesting things. We've been involved in a study, this is all published, but we've been involved in a study with Stanford looking at what we can do to reduce bias and make sure that women are treated the same as men on their qualifications. And it's surprising how hard it is, even if you really try hard. So anyway, the one thing that you guys can't possibly know about me today is I actually was stung in the eye by a bee this morning. It's true. I'm a beekeeper, and I went to look at my bees because I was just in Europe for 3 weeks, and so I went and had a quick look at the bees, and one of them came out and caught me on the eye.
I
so.
think it was just a hug. They were missing you too much.
Well, they're girls, bees. They're all girls, so, anyway.
Yeah, okay. That's really wonderful. I think, just to know about each one of you. I've been in industry myself for 15 years, and I've seen things go from, they're going into the right direction. There are definitely more girls, and there's definitely more awareness. And I've also seen on why is it important, but I would really like each of you to kind of share your experience, because like you mentioned, what can the guys over here can take away from this is, why is it even important to have that diversity in the workforce? How does it help the productivity of the team? How does it help the product? So if you can talk a little bit, and I think you kind of touched it, but a little bit more onto that, that would be nice. So we can, Maria, Amanda, anybody who.
Okay, I can start. As a working in mobile space, so we do a lot of handheld devices, smartphones, tablets, watches. And the first obvious answer why it's important for business is more than half of people buying these devices are women. If you have only men in the workforce, what kind of designs you will produce? What kind of products you will produce? For whom? You will produce it for men. So how you cover this? An obvious answer, you need to have female workforce at least to know what women want to produce a good products for them. And this is top one for business. And I can enumerate massive other reasons why, because it's kind of skipping the workforce. Women are smart, which is maybe a surprise for some people. So, and they're very persistent. They can do very good quality work. They can produce very unusual results in designs and architecture. And per my experience, balanced teams are the best who produce better designs, better innovations, and better quality. So.
Yeah, I think because just by having that diversity, it kind of brings discussions from a completely different viewpoint, and it leads to, I guess, the best of both worlds. So I totally agree with what you're saying of bringing more diverse kind of crowd in there. Amanda, what do you think around this thing?
I absolutely agree on two major points. Mostly the development of products. When you start seeing shifts in the consumers of your products, when you go from primarily a male demographic playing your video games to all of a sudden more than 50% you have women playing your video games. I mean, that needs to factor in, and part of that is having a team capable of bringing in those different viewpoints. And I know we'll get into talking about emergent technologies, but as soon as you start wanting to make a difference, as soon as you start wanting to leverage all these inputs coming in and start making a difference, having the diversity in a team to support that is really important. You're kind of hamstringing yourself if you only hold yourself to what you already know, to establish teams. If we all have a very clear picture of you have your mainframe guys, and it's the graybeards, and great, and they're good at that. But as soon as we start seeing more things coming in, you want to do more. You need that diversity. And you can attack all of these problems as your fully armed and operational battle station. You have everything you need to do that. So diversity, It includes women, it includes minorities, it includes people of different socioeconomic backgrounds. All that diversity makes a huge difference in creating a product that can appeal to everybody.
Yeah, so I
it's a big
think
thing.
the main point over there is because the product, if you want to take your product to a bigger audience, you need to make sure that you have some representative of those audience into the team to make sure that you're going to get it to the right way the audience will like it, right? That's pretty cool. Denise, I'm sure you have a lot of some examples and anecdotes around this.
I was just thinking about Arduino.
Yeah.
If you guys know, Arduino is a tool, teaching tool, that was built by some people at NYU for teaching sort of the beginning of the Internet of Things, if you will, the addressable, fully open source board. But after they built it, you know, they got it to have the plant tell you when it needed water and that kind of stuff. But to really show it off, really showcase it, the first technology that allowed that to happen was an ancillary board called LilyPad that was built by a woman researcher. And using the LilyPad, you can do all kinds of interesting things, with manipulating images on your clothing, making your clothing light up, doing, you know, all this different stuff. And I know that the inventors of Arduino thought it was fantastic because they live in the research world. So I just got back from a 3-week trip in Europe, and my last stop was at University of Vienna. And about half of the people that I was talking with were women there, women researchers. It was a pretty balanced, I think maybe 45% women, and they were looking at really interesting things. And I thought, wow, you know, is this just because I'm in Europe? Is it more common in Europe? And so I started talking to them. A lot of them turned out to be Americans who were in Europe working because it's easier for them there, which I think is a shame. So here's another example of something we could be doing better. We get ideas that we never thought of if we would encourage more women into computer science research in this country.
So that's actually a good segue into our another section or another question is, what can we do? And we have this hypothesis because there is a skill gap because of the emerging technologies. Do you really think that that skill gap can actually attract more women, or is there any advice from you all that how can we tap into that opportunity to use it and then develop our skills so that we become more, the organizations wants to hire more people and have that diversity in there? So Denise, would you like to say something?
I think it's super important in the emerging areas for women to see other people that look like them, and same is true for other marginalized groups. See people that look like them out there doing the work too, because then it looks like a place that they can go. I think that's a lot of the reason why eBay and PayPal spend so much time on diversity, is because they want women to know that it's a place where they can come to work and be made to feel comfortable and be given opportunities commensurate with the ones that men get. And so having corporations work harder to make it clear that that's possible. I mean, look at a company like Facebook, completely full of guys, famously full of guys, and yet we have Sheryl Sandberg. And you know, we all think, wow, Sheryl Sandberg, that's pretty awesome, right? It'd be nice if women started flocking to Facebook to work with Sheryl. I would love to see that. So I think one thing we can do is have more figureheads that look like the people that we're trying to attract.
So basically having more role models into the... Okay, yeah.
So it's actually from my side, I can add, so it's very echoing what you said. In terms of the Europe and US, it was my personal experience. So I started in Russia as, where I graduated and worked, and we never had this problem. And when I came to US, I was actually first could not understand what's going on. And then it took for me like a while and reading a few books, including Sheryl Sandberg's book, to understand, wow, because it is like so into society and it needs to change. And so different examples when, everybody benefit when diversity is celebrated, not only celebrated as a natural thing. So here, sometimes they kind of say like, oh, it's being pushed. Everybody talks about diversity. We need to bring it. No, it's not about that. It has to be natural. Natural use of workforce of all sources where businesses can benefit. That's kind of supposed to be the vision. And how we attract people and girls and minority people to do this is a hard question. So I think it's education. So we see now in universities and technical positions, more women are coming, more girls are coming, but somehow they're getting dropped off. So this is the thing is, they need to be supported through all the way because, in the male workforce, sometimes it's really hard to survive. And really, the women have to be supported, who have the courage to come up and, do this work. They need to be supported through the way with different things, like understanding the psychology, maybe some kind of encouraging them to do more steps in, sit at the table, like whatever I said. So this would be really important.
So Amanda, so you are in gaming, right? Like that's also a very niche area, and like just by looking at the data and the metrics around there, that's one of the area where the girls or the population is actually much lower than the standard tech industry too. So what do you think? Like is there anything specific about that industry, or can we do something over there specifically? Because I would think that right now, if I look at my daughter, she is into gaming, right? Like maybe I wasn't into video games, but looking at the younger kids, there's just a bunch of these girls who love to do that. So how do we keep on making sure that they are interested even when they're grown up and they are actually contributing towards that particular industry, that they like it so much right now?
I love that question because when I started, it was relatively rare. Girls, we just didn't play that many video games. I did. I played way too many video games. That's a different story. But I'm seeing so many young girls now. We had a class at Blizzard, a Girls Who Code class come over, girls who were playing video games and loving them. And it's not just video games, it's anything. You have that interest, and you can take that and grow that and mold that into a profession, into something that you love to do as a professional. I think it's really important for us, for girls especially, to say, okay, you love this thing. You have discovered this thing as a child. You love it as much as everybody else does. Stay with it. Here's what we can do for you to actually facilitate a career in it. There are so many different things. It's not just the art. It's not just the programming behind it. There's server engineering. There's data engineering. You're not just a technical writer.
Yeah.
Technical writers are amazing, by the way. I tried to write something, and that did not go well. There's so many options, and I think part of it is being able to show young women that here's this thing you love. Here are all the different careers, all the different elements that go into producing these things that you love. Pick one, do it. Yeah. I think that's huge. And it's such a huge opportunity now. There are so many girls out there playing video games, developing that love. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be good.
So the other thing that comes to mind, right? Like most of the dads and brothers, they are so protective and so particular about their sisters and daughters, and they want them to do really good, and they want to reach all the height. But then what happens? Like, why do we see this, that in the workforce, we have seen that there is these biases and things. So why does that happen? And is there anything that we can really do other than awareness and things that will make it, go away faster, I guess? Because I know that it will take time, but is there something, and especially because I see even in this room, the most of the people are men, then what can we kind of share with them, because I'm sure that each one of them want to help us, right? Like, I don't think any of the person over here not want to work with any of the smart women around. So what can we tell them so that they can do some part on their side to make this happen?
So, what a lovely setup that is. Okay, so heads up. How many of you have a daughter, a niece, a something? Hands up. Yeah. Keep your hand up if you have played technology games with that kid and made them really get it, that it's cool to hang out with you and do that. There's very good indicators that this is the single most important thing that anybody, man or woman, can do for a child, a girl child, to help them later on get into the game. I had a dad like that. He tinkered with me, and I put it aside for a really long time, worked in theater, worked in legal offices, did a bunch of stuff, landed at Apple, discovered that I could program. So, it can stay latent a long time if you pack it in there early. You're going to go through the stage of, my boyfriend doesn't want me to be smarter than he is, so I'm going to pretend I'm stupid. That just happens to girls. It just does. So, trust them through that phase, but make sure that they get it, that it's cool to hang out and tinker, and that you think it's cool when they do it with you. That's a huge thing. And we're starting to see really good toys for very young children that teach them engineering principles while letting them play with little pieces of plastic that are pink, The other thing is show them role models. I mean, there are some awesome female role models, amazing women. that have gone before us. How many of you know that we have a female CTO in this country right now? The CTO of our country is a woman right now, Megan Smith. She used to work for Google. And there's a great video floating around on the internet right now of her talking about how the original Mac team of 12 included 3 women, but they've been written out of history. They don't show up in the movies. You can find plenty of pictures of them and early interviews with them, but now they're disappearing from the story. Don't let that happen. And notice that that shouldn't happen. Show your daughters and your nieces that this girl, Megan, grew up to be the CTO of this country. She's only the 3rd CTO in the history of the country. It's pretty impressive. So those are the main things I tell people.
Yeah. Anything, Amanda or Maria, you would like to add?
So I kind of echoing again what Denise said. So going back to my personal history, the person who pushed me and showed me the excitement of engineering was my dad. Actually, he took me from my ballet and put me to engineering. And he taught me their programming language. We were doing like this, we had this Sinclair Spectrum basic machines and, making, easy games which are kind of counting, like for kids, 1 + 1 = 2, this type of things, like basic graphics. That showed me that it's not only something complex and mathematical and logical, but it could be fun to your games part, right? It could be fun. That's why I went to and took this kind of for computer science. I went ahead and enjoyed it all my life, and I'm enjoying it still. So I totally agree with you. Role modeling, and role modeling could be on not only women, like I said, it could be your fathers, uncles, anybody, but don't separate the girls from boys. So, okay, boys playing Legos, scientific, and girls playing unicorns and ponies. No, it's not the case. Girls, I have a 3 years old daughter who is playing wonderful with my son, who's 6 years old, doing the same Legos, the same games which are educate logic, which teach electricity, teach scientific principles, and they're totally fine, and they love it. So, yeah, please do it, and then we will see the change.
So the other thing also, I have a daughter, 12-year-old daughter, and what I've seen is that whenever it's something about creativity or something that leads to helping somebody, she gets more excited about it. So the way I was trying to do is especially with all these technologies coming up, it's very easy to build something. Setting up a website is so easy. Getting your word out is so easy. And it just makes them feel very creative. And because she built up a website on bullying, so she was trying to help other kids, and she felt pretty good about it. So somehow I also feel that we can use these technologies to kind of divert their interest into things that appeal to them more, and get into that thing. Do you think that that's something you have seen in your experience, that when it touches the humans or it touches the, some kind of a social event, and it makes the girls more interested in that? What do you think about it, Amanda?
What makes girls do gaming?
Well, I'm not sure about everybody, but to your point about engaging girls in this kind of social thing, and to both of your points about the power that a father has to be a hero, or mother, but any kind of parental influence who can come in and show our young girls how powerful this can be. I mean, I remember watching, this is going to be the nerdiest thing I've said, and I've said a bunch of nerdy things, but I remember watching the 2nd season episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation with my father. It was episode 11001001. That was the name of the episode. And I asked my dad what that meant. And he sat me down. I was, 7 at the time? Now I'm dating myself, great. Taught me binary. That was just something we did because we watched Star Trek together. I had that question. You can be a hero to your daughters. All right, this is where you can make a difference, where you can start getting them thinking about things that they love, and develop that love right from the start. It's amazing. Be a hero to your girls.
Okay, so we talked about on what we as individuals can help them get excited. What can women do themselves? What are your advices for somebody who has left the workforce and taken a break, or just a women in tech? On what advices would you give them to make sure that they're still excited about the technology that they were once excited about, and they keep on continuing and contributing in the same way. So what
This is actually a great time to be a woman and learn how to code. There's a lot of free programs to retrain or train for the first time women in these areas. There are programs to train everybody, but there's a lot of specialist programs for women, and they're great. I know a lot of people, because I work in open source, there's lots of community managers who don't actually code, but they want to get closer to it. And after a few years community managing, they decide they want to learn to code. And it's really common for them to go off to these camps and come back able to talk much more coherently about what they're doing, maybe even sort of get into that industry, which is awesome. One of the most balanced communities that I'm involved with is actually the Drupal community. Drupal is a website building tool, content management tool that's open source, 100% open source. And one of the reasons I got involved with them, I sit on their board, is because I wanted to understand why their diversity was so good. They have about 35% women. And it turns out it's because with that technology, you can start what's called a lifestyle company, where a couple will divvy up the work of doing small work for local people that just need a website. And it's interesting to see that sometimes it's the woman that picks up the coding jobs, and the guy does the billing and maybe the design work. So I love seeing those reversals. But the other reason that that's a great diverse women's community is because the most senior technical people there, Dries Betaert, who invented the technology, and Angie Byron, who was the first sort of global community manager, both of them are essentially gender blind. They answer every single person exactly the same way with the same welcoming message, and while they don't assume a lot of capability, neither do they assume lack of capability. They offer the same helping hand, and they've set that tone for that whole community, and it's not cool not to be that way. And that stands in stark contrast to, say, the Linux kernel, where the leader will tell you himself he's a troll, and very difficult to deal with. And so all of the people around him model that behavior too. So.
Maria?
Okay, so from my side, I can tell one, looking at how women are doing in their careers, what priorities, choices they're making, there is a lot of influence around. And unfortunately, it's a lot of they treat their career versus family like it's a choice. I have to choose my family or I have to choose my career. And I think the important thing is to understand it's not really either one. You can do both, and you have to do both, because once you're doing this, your kids will get not only servant and mother who's loving one, but will get some role model to follow going forward. If you want a success for your daughters, women need to understand, I need to do this step up. I need to pursue this just to make my kids successful, just to make my little one successful, who will look what I'm doing and will continue to follow my steps. And same thing is sometimes it requires a lot of understanding in the families. It's very important, and it has to come from husbands as well, because I hear a lot of things like that. So my husband is very demanding at home, and that's why I had to stop my career and devote myself to the house and to the kids. So why so? Husbands have a man, it's appealing to the man. So have to think through, do you really want someone who's just a servant? Or you want someone who can make your life more compelling, more happy, more fulfilling, because the person grows up for life, grows up and achieves next points of careers, develops herself as a cultural-wise, social-wise, and make your life more compelling, more fulfilling, and make your kids more happy. That's, I think, this shift has to happen, but it all depends on us. And otherwise, our kids would not be able to benefit.
Amanda, would you like to add something to this? I think those are the main points. One of the things that come in is a priority, and I think the women, they themselves has to take that strong step and say that, yes, no, I have to handle both of them, and then kind of get the help to make sure that she can handle both of them. And from the other side, we have to make sure that we make the leaders and the role models in the industry are taking a step to make sure that they are, talking about it. They're making sure that the environment is such that they feel comfortable, the flexibility is there, and they should be able to kind of handle both the things. So at home and at work, we have to kind of make an environment where women feel more comfortable taking both the responsibilities and sharing it equally with their husbands and other side. So we are almost out of time. Any last words around this thing? Anything that you would like to share before we just end up?
I will say that I learned to code because somebody took the time to sit with me and help me through it. And I was, 35 years old. And, and so I know it's possible to do. If a woman does join your team, consider taking the extra step of becoming her mentor on that team long enough to make her comfortable. Even if you don't do that normally for the guys, you have to realize how daunting it is to join an all-male team and feel like even if it isn't true that bad things are going to happen, you're going to be challenged as a woman. You hear about it so much that you come onto the team a little nervous. And so just, a little bit of friendliness, a little bit of solidarity goes a long way. So think about that too when women do join your groups.
Yeah, and I think, and we would like more men to be part of the panel discussing this too, and not just the women talking about it. So
Yeah,
hopefully,
we lost our guy, right?
Yeah,
we had one guy, but he couldn't make it.
He couldn't make it. I hope we didn't scare him away.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. Thank you so much for sharing all your views and advices, and thank you all for listening. Thank you.